Dangerous Prototypes presents Beers in Bunnie's Workshop 2012. In mid-2012, man's dream of once again returning to another planet was realized. You've seen our brave young men and women leave the Earth's safe glow once before. But once again, the youthful souls at the National Aeronautic and Space Administration have done the impossible by landing on the Red Planet. Our protagonists, two young electronics enthusiasts, tune in to view this momentous occasion on their electronic television set while enjoying a frothy brew.
If you're in hardware, you have big piles of boxes of parts. So a lot of these here are sort of leftovers. It's called the hot dog and hot dog buns problem. Hot dog buns come in packs of 10 and hot dogs come in packs of 8. So you make 8 hot dogs, you have 2 buns left over, right? So this is essentially the collective leftover buns from many projects. So you order reels of resistors in 10,000, right? And you do a run of 5,000. You're left with 5,000 resistors. You're not going to throw them away, right? And so you end up with all these tailings of little bits and pieces of resistors, and so you start accumulating this pile of components.
Bunnie's going to give us a little tour of his workspace here. It's extremely well equipped. I'm really impressed. I wish I had half of these tools, man. It's a great space.
I got my tech oscope here, 1 gigahertz, 4 channels. It's my old standby. I do everything with that. This is actually a board I'm working on right now. This is a robot controller for a competition that's held in the United States. It's open hardware, as you can see from the logo here. It has 4 motor channels on it, an 800 megahertz Linux computer, an FPGA, Wi-Fi.
You've got some BGA chips on there.
Yeah. There's a.
And how are you doing those?
Oh, those are done in the factory. So
okay,
I work with a factory in China to get these all built. So this is a prototype that just got back. We're bringing it up. Got my optical microscope for soldering, my Keithley meter.
How much of your soldering do you do under a microscope?
Oh, you pretty much have to. I do a lot of 0402 and 0201, so you have to use a microscope to be really successful in that. And so I've got here the rework station here, hot air, $20 on the market in Shenzhen. I actually got this in Shenzhen, bought it here. I have some BJ rework equipment here if I actually need to do it. So this is a reballer and stencils for reballing.
How often do you do that?
Just starting into it.
Yeah.
I have some balls and stuff. I'm going to go ahead and put them down and try to get my hands dirty with it. Right now, I do most of my BJ work with the factory because, given the whole overall cost of the project, it's like $100 or something like that to get it done. Might as well do it.
Oh, really? Just $100 to have them do those chips?
Yeah.
Oh, that's really nice. And do they X-ray inspect it too?
Sure, of course. Yeah. So why take the risk of doing it yourself when you can just get it done? And compared to the cost of the boards and the time and debugging, but it would be nice for me to do it myself. This is my wafer scope. So this one here is used for inspecting chips and so forth. So this here is actually this is a micro SD card or an SD card that I tore apart. And so I have a research project right now to try and discover kind of what's going on inside of these cards. Trying to figure out what the embedded controller is capable of.
Okay.
Right. The basic observation is that you have people pay $30 for an Arduino or something like that, and it's got a certain amount of power and so forth. And people, you can buy an SD card for $5, $2, and it's got an awesome microcontroller inside of it. Some of them have arms inside. This is the grave of Chumbys over here. And so when you build, one thing you find when you build consumer hardware, and then you have lots and lots of them laying around, is you find weird uses for them. So, in the factory, when we burn the micro SD cards for our boards, we use Chumby ones. We put a new firmware on it, and they actually show on the little display saying ready to burn. Plug it in, and automatically starts burning, verifies the card, pulls out with the UI and everything like that. Yeah. So we just reuse and reuse all the stuff that we make. I got this mostly because it has a screen here, and so if you're trying to show someone a problem with the board, it's hard to actually put in a microscope and then point at it and have them look at it. Yeah. So here I can put the board down and it illuminates the whole assembly, and on the screen you can point to it and say.
So you don't actually solder under there.
It's actually the original idea was that I could hopefully help people learn how to solder with it, but there's a problem where you're looking here and you're soldering down here, and actually the disconnect is really hard. I
find that too
to get around. Yeah. So whereas the stereo microscope. is really much better for soldering. And the other thing is that the resolution of this is like, I think it's a little more than VGA. It's actually not good enough for soldering.
Yeah.
Like, you can't tell if you actually had the connection or if it's just kind of some kind of like glistening artifact or something like that. So
I also find the delay, the latency,
yeah,
the refresh rate and the response rate between the camera and the screen, it can be really frustrating to like maneuver in and make those little motions.
It's never really worked out that well. On the other hand, it was like, it's cheap. I bought it in China, so it was like $80 or something. So it wasn't like I lost my shirt trying it. Yeah. So, this is a little hot air reworkstation. You can put boards on top here, kind of heats them, and you can use it for helping with the tricky connections. With
oh, nice. So it's actually it's like a hot plate. Is it a replacement for a hot plate, or is it a board heater?
Well, it's a board heater. So the idea is if you have like a big component with like a lot that's on a ground plane that normally you can't heat up, you put it on here and you kind of you get the board heated just below kind of the melting point of the solder, so that when you hit it with the soldering iron, it comes off a lot easier. And then you can also use a hot air gun on the top side. I have a little stand for mounting on the top, so you can basically get the whole thing kind of warmed up to like kind of 150, 175, and so you're not having to overcome like a 200-degree gradient with a soldering iron.
Yeah, and that's my next investment. I want a board preheater.
Yeah.
Warm, so
it's
easier
cheap.
to solder.
It's like $20 in China. So,
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, just A10 is a great brand actually. I like them a lot. They have a good shop in Chumby.
Genuine Hakko tips or knockoff Hakko tips? And can you tell the difference?
I can't tell the difference, which means they're good enough for me. They say Hakko on them. They work. My favorite part here, this little box, 100 megabit fiber, Class C, GPON network, so nice. Guaranteed latency.
Really?
Nice. Yeah, guaranteed latency. And then the box next to it, 100 megabit cable. So we have a redundant failover, so just in case one goes down, we always have...
Really?
Yeah.
And how much does it cost?
The cable is about $60 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Fiber is a little bit more, like maybe $90 a month or something like that. I was in Shenzhen, I just found this. These are a book of laptop schematics, so this is like Dell D520 schematics. Show you like, here's the LCD connector, the panel core power, the CPU VRM. They have the HP, Lenovo, ThinkPad, Samsung, Acer, BenQ, Asus, so it's a book, and they have like a couple of these out there, so I picked one of these up. Actually, I mean, the reason why I like to get these is like you go, okay, well, here's a good example, right? LCD power. Here's a motif I noticed. So when you turn off the LCD panel, you want to put a power switch on it. So here's the power switch right here. There's a FET controlled by low-level signal from the CPU. They also put, almost inevitably, this other little transistor here, which is a pull-down. This one here is 100 ohms. And what happens is that basically when this power FET turns off, this one turns on and shorts this to ground. And the reason why they do that is because there's so much leakage path coming in from the LCD pins itself that it'll actually self-power the panel from the actual data pins if you don't turn those off, right?
Wow.
And so they put this extra FET here to kind of suck all the leakage current and prevent like powering from the ESD to make sure that the panel actually goes into a shutdown state. So this is one of those like little details that no one has in a book anywhere, but if you get a book of schematics like this and you study them, you're like, what's this thing for? And you kind of look and you look and you look and think about like, that must be why they're putting it in there.
Here in Singapore, you have a couple of electronics markets. Like, what's your impression of them?
Yeah, I think the way I often summarize it is as if you took an electronics market and you put it in a time warp in like the late 80s, right? And the reason for that is that, I mean, Singapore used to have a lot of electronic manufacturing here, but around the late 80s, early 90s, they made a decision to move into more value-added things. Yeah, so you go in the market to find a lot of like dip chips. If you want some classics, if you're just looking for some like weird old NEC like 8088 knockoffs and stuff like that, they'll have them in there and a bunch of stuff. But I think that overall it's mostly, I go there mostly for tools, sort of like things I need in a pinch. If I want like a reel of components, I probably couldn't find it there. It'd be challenging.
Yeah, in our tour, I don't think we saw any surface mount stuff.
Yeah,
the whole time it was just through whole parts.
It's kind of locked
connectors. Good
80s, early
connectors,
90s. Yeah, a good selection of connectors.
I would love to run down to a store at home and buy a connector.
Yeah, Yeah.
But I can't do that.
Yeah.
I would kill for that opportunity. That's
true.
a good one.
That's true. Yeah, no, there's definitely like, there's times where like, oh, we need some LEDs or we need some resistors. We don't have this, and we go down there and we just grab them. So it's definitely convenient.
And how much of your stuff comes from Huaqiangbei?
Everything that's sort of, I would say, sort of common that you would expect to be able to get there, I get there.
Yeah.
The more precision stuff, I don't get from there because, like, I really want them to be reliable. So the Keithley's an original, and the Tektronix is the original that I got in the U.S. But like, the microscope is from Huaqiangbei, all the soldering irons, all the multimeters, a lot of the components and reels and stuff. If you do have access to Huaqiangbei, you find that you just go there over and over again. I mean, you have like everything there pretty much. Although, I mean, Huaqiangbei also has its limitations, right? If you want something that's not a commodity product, it's very hard to find there. So, like, for example, the opposite problem you have in Huaqiangbei is, this is like transistor array that's like been discontinued. I need to buy more of them. Good luck finding it there. I mean, like, unless it was like in some huge, like, complete hit product, and there would be lots of leftovers, tailings. They're just not going to have it in the market. People won't even know what it is. And try finding a vacuum tube there. No way, right? And then there's one store I know of in all of Huaqiangbei that's vacuum tubes, and it's like a desk, like literally like this big, with a guy sitting behind it, right, selling vacuum tubes. That's like this whole store, right? That's all you have in Huaqiangbei for vacuum tubes. So, do you have stands, distributors that you prefer in Huaqiangbei? One of the things I try to do is I try to go when I buy. A lot of times I have to do like sort of last minute buying. Because I can't get like the actual part in time from the original manufacturer what it is, and you got to do production and blah blah blah. And so you go to Huaqiangbei, there's lots of gray market stuff, and it can be really sketchy. And so I try to build a rapport with certain vendors so they know who I am, and they know that if they sell me something off, like, they're going to lose all my business. And I think that really helps kind of keep the quality, up there. They'll actually be like, you don't want that part. Like, you'd be like, how about this one? Like, no, buy this one over here. Like, they look the same, but okay, right? Same price, but okay, this is...
They're the expert.
Yeah, they would know which one they have in their stock, which is, like, the better one or not. And so that's always good. So definitely, there's, like, a bazillion places to buy resistors, and there's exactly one that I go to over and over again. And, I still haven't gotten a bad set from them. And the funny thing is, like, a lot of times, like, people say, like, oh, you go to the markets and try and you haggle, right? The thing is, like, I have a rule. If I'm going to Huaqiangbei and I'm doing sourcing, I have to save at least $1,000 an hour. Otherwise, it wasn't worth the effort, right? If I had like a kind of a bomb, like a bill of materials with a price, and if I didn't save $1,000 in that hour, then I shouldn't have gone to the market, right? Because there's just better things I can do with my time. And even with that goal in mind, a lot of times I go in with like a target price. I always write down here's the DigiKey price. Here's the price I'm getting from the manufacturer. Here's what I expect, right? And I have kind of like a high limit. And a lot of times I go in with the prices written down ahead of time because in addition to translating Chinese and getting all straight in my head, like, I have to negotiate at the same time. It's really hard to really have it clear, so I have my cheat sheet. And the opening price that come would be like 1/10 of like my upper bound price, right? I don't even bother arguing at that point in time. People are like, dude, aren't you going to negotiate? I'm like, there's going to be a deviation of 2% versus like my overall target. Why do I even bother arguing at this point in time? So the prices are really, really good in the market if you know how to use it.
When we went there and did a video, there's an American guy that's been working with Seed Studio, and he said the same thing. He said, it's not about haggling. Like, people think you're going to come here and bargain, but it's about, what is it, guanxi?
Yeah,
it's
guanxi.
about face and building reputation. And then you find that whether you buy one or 1 million, you're always going to get the same price.
Yeah,
they're going to treat you good, and they're always going to give you the same price, and you don't have to worry about haggling at all. Yeah. But it's making that connection.
Absolutely. I had an example the other day. I had to order 1,000 2.4 gigahertz antennas, right? UWF. If you buy them from DigiKey, they're like $2 a piece, and if you order them direct from the manufacturer, like $1, right? I got them for like less than 20 cents a piece, right? And there's 1,000 of them, so you're sitting 1,000 times 80 cents. It's neat, and that was like one negotiation back and forth. You just look at it and say, this will work. This meets spec. It looks good. Like, you hold it there on the spot. You measure it, okay, and then send some samples to factory, and you're done, right? That's great. Like,
the ability to hold the stuff is what I like most about going to these markets.
Yeah.
Especially things like buttons and switches, where if you look at it in a catalog, you don't quite know how it's going to fit into what you're building.
Yeah.
You go there and you're holding, yes, this is the one.
And the other thing that's really cool is a lot of times the actual manufacturer there, right? So like one time I was there and we were trying to source some battery packs. And we're like, well, we kind of want it with a button that does this and doesn't do that. And then we're like, well, they don't have anything. And I was kind of walking around and he goes, oh, but we can get one made custom for you. I'm like, really? How many do I have to order? Oh, like 10 or 20. Like, really? How much? Oh, $5 a piece. I'm like, okay, I'll take the custom ones. When you actually have access to the factory, like, there's so much more is possible, right? Because they have all the material there, right? If you want a longer cord, it's just a matter of changing work instruction, make it a little longer, right? And it's easy, as opposed to like when you go through a game of telephone, you have to go through a distributor who has to buy the stock, a sales rep who has to get a cut, and then you have to, and then particularly when there's middlemen who have to carry a certain fixed amount of inventory, they want to shove it down your throat as much as possible. So no, you can't change anything because I already have like 1,000 of these on order. I really want to give them to you, right? The factory just has the raw bits, right? And so they just want to move the raw bits. So if it means customize, it means they move more raw bits, so they customize it for you.
Well, Bunnie's workshop is really impressive. I think most geeks would be happy doing some work here. I know I've seen some new tools I want that I'm going to pick up in Huachong Bay the next time I'm there. So thank you so much for the beer, and thank you for having us by.
Yeah, thanks for coming by. That's awesome.
Thanks, Bunnie.
Good to see you again.
Yeah.
This has been a production of Dangerous Prototypes, with special guest star Bunnie Huang. Production help from Chris Gamble of theamphour.com. Join us next time when Ian and the Dangerous Prototypes crew make an open source hardware module for the moon.